Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this October 7th of 2021. I'm Mayor Diana Broderson, and welcome to our city. We're so glad you joined us today. I can't believe it's October already, but here we go. I just saw a thing this morning, 79 days till Christmas. It'll be here before we can blink an eye. But we're going to change up our format a little bit today. We are so fortunate to have with us Tibe Vander, Linden, our Muscatine County Auditor. You know, it's going to be voting day here November 2nd, and there's some changes this year. And I know she's in the very busy time for them, but we are glad that she's with us to make sure that we get it right and we know what all of the changes are, and we can vote with knowing all the rules. So thank you for joining us, and thank you, Tibe. We appreciate you coming today.
Yeah, thank you, Diana.
I know you're swamped. You must be.
It is a busy time, but I like to be able to be here with you and get some word out on the important dates that are coming up.
Absolutely.
So
tell us what they are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, certainly just to lead into this, as you mentioned, November 2nd is our upcoming election. That is for the city offices and the school boards throughout Muscatine County. In the year 2019, just 2 years ago, the city and school election was combined to be one election. And prior it had been split to be two, with the school board being the election in September and then the city election in November. But the Secretary of State combined it so that we vote all on the one day. And coming up, that will be Tuesday, November 2nd. So leading into that, I just want to mention some important dates that are right around the corner. Next week on Wednesday, October 13th is the first day for two things. You can either vote in person at the auditor's office, or it's the first day that we will be able to mail out absentee ballots for those that have requested those by sending us a form. Another important deadline to realize is that for 70 days before the election, you can request your ballot by entering your absentee ballot form. But the deadline for that is for us to have received that form by October 18th. So that's Monday, October 18th. We need to receive your absentee ballot form either in person or by mail service. If we don't receive it by that date, you will get a letter stating that you'll need to vote either in person at the auditor's office or on November 2nd at the polls.
That's an earlier date this year, isn't it?
Yes, that is because of the new law, that it was shortened. Instead of a full 29 days before the election, it's just 20.
Oh, so it was 9 days. Okay, I see.
29 days, yeah. And prior to that, it had been 40 days. So it has certainly shortened our time to get those absentee ballot requests in. But you can fill out a form at our counter and vote in person from October 13th through November 1st. And we are open 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. each day.
So do you get a lot of people that come and vote in person?
We certainly do, more so for a general election, which would be, next year.
Sure.
The city and school election is typically smaller turnout all the way around. But we're certainly here to promote. Our city offices are very important. Our school board elections are very important.
So
we'd like a good turnout.
Sorry, were those combined for the entire state then, not just our county?
That's right, for the entire state.
Well, that makes so much more sense, doesn't it?
It does, and for the cost.
Yeah.
We can run it together and not have two separate costs.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the absentee ballot request forms, those are on your website?
They are. They're on the Muscatine County, Iowa.gov website under the Auditor tab and then under Elections. They also are on the Iowa Secretary of State website. Or you can call our office and we will mail you a form.
Oh, that's nice. Now, is it not acceptable yet? And I don't think it is, and I'm surprised that there's not a way to fill those out online and email them back to you.
Right, that's not acceptable. We do
Yeah.
need original ink. We need the form.
Oh, I guess people could go on there and do them for other people. I suppose that'd be why. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay,
yeah.
yeah. So, but all of the polls are open this year, is that correct? At each of the sites?
Actually, it will be 14 polling locations, the same as we used 2 years ago in 2019.
Uh-huh.
And the polling locations are also on the Muscatine County, Iowa.gov website.
Okay.
And there again, there's also a link within there that if you're wondering where your polling place is, you can click on that and it takes you to the Iowa Secretary of State's web page where you'll enter your address and it will give your polling location.
Okay.
And we also accept calls. We have a lot of calls because people are confused or want to be sure.
You know, one of the biggest questions that I get, besides where's my polling place, is people confused about the precincts and wards. And so they said, I think there's a mistake because I know I'm in 2. And then we get to the bottom of it and I say, no, you're in 2nd precinct, but that's not your ward. So you're in
Right.
Ward 1, but precinct 2. But that's confusing how that works that way.
And that has to do with the combination of our city and school election together, where when it was separate and also might have been used to different polling locations. So yeah, it's best to ask, best to look into the information. If they arrive on election day at the wrong polling center, we'll know that by looking up their registration or their address, and we'll let them know where they do need to go.
Okay, good. Now, I've also read that if you didn't vote in some of the previous elections, your voter registration will be dropped and you'll have to be reinstated. Can you explain that?
Yeah, that came about with these new election laws. If you did not vote in the last general election, which was not that long ago, it was just last November of 2020, then your registration is not valid. But there's 2 ways to correct that. You can either fill out a new registration form, or the easiest way is just the next time you vote, it will be reinstated. So, and where the previous law was you weren't put in that status until you had not voted in 2 general elections.
And now it's
so that's the change.
But will they still have your name? Will they still have your
Yes.
name on the list?
Yes, it will be if you had been registered to vote before.
Okay.
But obviously, we're checking that you haven't moved. We'll need valid ID for that. And there again, we have in Iowa, we have same day registration to vote. So if people are wondering, or if they moved, or they're new to the area and this is first time to vote, or being reinstated, their registration will be done same day registration at the polls.
That's handy. So if there's any snafu, don't worry about it. They can fix it there.
Yes. And the other thing I'm not sure I mentioned, Diana, is if you do want to be registered to vote prior to election day, that deadline is October 18th. To send in a request form for registration.
Okay. Otherwise, you'd have to do the early one or the one at the polls. And how are the 2 different then?
They really are no different. It's just making another good option so that no one's turned away at the polls.
Okay.
No one that's a valid voter with proper registration will be turned away. They're eligible to vote.
Okay.
So as well as in person here in our office.
So one thing I've been telling everybody is you have to have an ID though.
Correct. Yes, you need a valid driver's license is the best form of ID.
Okay.
And there again, that is listed under elections. If anyone has any questions, our Muscatine County, Iowa.gov website under elections also has that information. There's a piece there that tells what time the polls are open, which, to remind people, that is 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. That is no different than 2 years ago. For the city and school election, the voting time was 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Now going forward, next year when we have our primary and we have our general election, the voting times will be the same. That's a new election law. It's 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Prior, it had been till 9 p.m.
Yes.
But we will be promoting that again. And we feel that's fair. Auditors across the state of Iowa have been asking for that shorter polling time for many years. So that part of the legislation was certainly a welcome thing to happen. And I think it's a good thing because we can close our polls. It's a long day for poll workers. If you've ever been a poll worker or know a poll worker, they arrive at 6 a.m. and they're all day until after the results are tabulated on their machines. And if we close at 9, of course, it's just that much later. It's that much later that the results come here to our office so we can start tabulating the full election. So we're excited that it'll be closed or closing at 8 and we can get those results.
My only worry with it closing at 8 is I was worried about shift workers that might not be off in time and might need that other hour, but I suppose 8 to 9 probably isn't a large difference there in who's getting off work later.
Truly. Yeah, I truly believe that too. And just takes a little planning. If people are afraid they're not going to be available on November 2nd, election day, then they can start
do it early.
Voting starting next Wednesday, October 13th.
I know some people who love to vote absentee ballot, and I've always been an old schooler. I like to go and do it in person. And the only time I've ever voted absentee was in 2020 because of the pandemic. The encouragement was for more people to do it at home in a safer way. So, but now my husband loves doing absentee, but I like to always just go.
Yeah, I've always been a poll at the polls on election day, and I'm with you. Last year during the pandemic, not knowing how many polls would possibly be open, a little uncertainty there. Plus, the Secretary of State at that time sent everybody an absentee ballot request form. We were all doing so much more at home that there were a record number of absentee voters and a record number for Muscatine County of actual voters.
Yeah,
so
it was really nice, everybody getting that in the mail and then having that opportunity. But I know your entire team works so hard to make sure that everybody has an opportunity, and I know you have a heart for making sure that everybody can raise their hand and say, this is what I think. And I can't never thank your people enough. Back a few years back in the presidential election, and my dad had his appendix burst and had emergency surgery like the day before the election, and has never missed voting in an election ever. And I called your office, and 2 workers came over and stood in the doorway, and I was able to hold the ballot for my dad to circle who he, and I just thought, how awesome is that, to go that extra mile to see to it that people have an opportunity to share their opinion and vote in that way. It meant so much to him and to, I'm sure, all the other people that it happens to. I'm sure we're not the only ones.
Yeah, but what a great story and a testimony of how voting can work and how helpful the staff here is. And I am very grateful for the staff here at the auditor's office. Current staff of 4 workers have between 8 and 21 years of experience.
Wow.
They definitely take elections seriously and are in for safe and secure elections.
I believe it wholeheartedly. Having to campaign myself for being mayor, anytime I've had a question and came in, they're so skilled and they know the answers and are incredibly helpful to anybody that walks in your doors. So you have such a great team.
Yeah, Thank you, Diana.
Absolutely. You guys should all be proud of the work that you do. I'm trying to think of any other changes that you think we need to know for this season.
Well, I certainly have notes here.
Bring in a photo ID, the 13th. I know 13th we can start voting in the office. The 18th is the last day to get in your absentee ballot request forms. I keep hammering that one because it seems like, gee, Manetly, that's going to be here in no time. And one thing I wondered was your drop box, making sure people don't leave their ballots there.
Good point, Diana. Yeah, that's a good one I want everyone to be aware of. With the new election laws, the ballot drop-off boxes has been a big topic of conversation, big topic of the law. And for our county, we won't have a separate ballot drop-off box. And the reason for that is the cost to the taxpayer. It would have been its own box, would have had to be bolted and secured, would have had to have 24/7 surveillance camera on it. Also would have had to be checked by my staff 4 times a day, even on weekends and holidays, and been logged at what time of day each time it was open. And then there's always the chance of vandalism. And so I didn't feel it was important enough. I didn't feel it was necessary enough when we have so much time to truly vote in person or by mail or by dropping off your ballot. So yeah, we are not allowed to use the drop-off box that's in the front of the courthouse. And I'm sorry, in front of the administration building on 3rd Street. There is a drop box there for the treasurer's office and for the building, but it cannot be a combined ballot drop box. So we are having to state, and we'll have a sign on it, please do not leave your ballot in that box.
Okay.
If you're standing in front of our building, then we want you to come on in and come up to the auditor's office and leave your ballot with us or vote in person.
Does the ballot require a stamp to mail it back to you?
It does not.
It's pre-stamped, right?
Right, it's pre-stamped, so
that's another
ready
option, isn't it? If they have that in their hand, they can drop it in the mailbox right next to your drop box.
You're right. It's exactly, you're right that it's right there. So, and I'd like to mention that the way the building is set up here, when you come in the front door, that is not our handicap entrance. So if you come in the front door, you're in front of steps and we're on the 2nd floor. But if you park or come up the back way of our building, there is handicapped parking behind our building, as well as when you enter that door, there's an elevator. That way we are handicapped accessible for if you need to come in for a form, need to drop off your ballot, or need to come in for in-person voting.
That's the way I've used too these last few years, because tried to leave those spaces in the front for people that are running in to get their car tags and what have you. But if you pull around in that parking space around back, open the door, right there's the stairs, right there's the elevator, you get off and walk a few steps and there's your office. It's extremely convenient.
No, thank you. Yeah, you're right. It is a busy block between the courthouse and administration building, always traffic at the treasurer's office, as well as recorders, auditors, assessors, administration. So
all kinds
of there is parking behind our building. And we will have, once it's early voting, there will be a sign saying vote here.
Oh, so that's great.
It helps draw attention to it, helps let people know there is parking in the back.
I think one of the messages that I'm really trying to, besides getting out all the different rules and making sure take a photo ID with you, those kinds of things. The biggest message I think is don't wait till the last minute.
So true.
Or be prepared. At 7:45, don't decide I think I'm going to go vote. on November 2nd. If you're going to go vote in person, wonderful. But if not, all of these dates are going to be a titch earlier. So.
Right. And one thing about the earlier deadline is if we receive your absentee ballot request form and the deadline's to get it by the 18th, but you've forgotten to sign it, or it's not complete enough that we cannot mail you a ballot, it gives time for us to send you a letter and let you know that you won't be receiving the ballot per your first request form, but you can come into the office and vote, or if there's still time, we'll send you another form. But it does open up more possibility for time to get things back and forth, time to get those ballots out, give you time to research your candidates. I do believe there are people that truly like to get their ballot at home. It's easy to do research and find out about your candidates before you vote.
Absolutely. Well, I know you've got to get moving and keep busy trying to get everything ready. And next Wednesday, early voting is going to be here before we know it. So I can't thank you enough, you and your entire team, for all the work you do on our behalf. It's amazing how you make this look so smooth, and I'm sure everything will go off without a hitch.
Well, thank you, Diana. And I want to say a thank you to my staff. I want to say a thank you to the poll workers that we're lining up for 14 different locations. We will have 5 poll workers at each location. Many of you know those as your neighbors, your family, your friends. They are truly dedicated, and they are very important of our democracy and very important to our voting system. So I want to thank you for having me on today, and I appreciate your support. And if anyone has any questions, we take calls. We have an open door policy. We want you to call us. We want you to be sure of your voting rights and how to vote. Very good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, Diana, and you too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Well, big thanks to Tibe for joining us today. I know we've learned a lot, and if you have any questions, I can assure you her team is very good at answering your questions, and they provide excellent customer service to the community. So if you have a question, just give them a call. If you need help with anything, I'm always available too to help point you in the right direction. I did have a couple of announcements. I just wanted to share on the COVID front. We've now had 6,666 cases so far in Muscatine County. I'm glad, on one hand, I'm glad there's an extra 6 in there. So far in Muscatine County this past week, we had 129 new cases. And last week we had 122. So we're up just a titch, but pretty much just about the same as last week. But unfortunately, for the second week in a row, we've had 2 more deaths. So prayers go out to their families. We are still sitting at 64% of eligible people in the state of Iowa have been fully vaccinated, and 63% in Muscatine County have been fully vaccinated. So let's keep going with our vaccines and protect everybody else, and hopefully everybody stays safe. And I always pray to keep that corona far away from all of us. So thank you to all of those doing everything that you can. Next, I'd just like to welcome you to join me on Saturday at 9 a.m. at the Lagoon Shelter for a coffee with the mayor. The Lagoon Shelter, is the one right down there by the lagoon. Been there for a long time, but there are brand new restrooms right next door, and they're really nice. So if you haven't had a chance to see those yet, that's a good opportunity. I can't tell you how many years people have talked about needing restrooms down there on the bottom end of Weed Park. So we're very fortunate to have those. But we'll just have a chat. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have and hear what you want to talk about. So we'll see you on Saturday if you're able. And lastly, Senior Resources got a hold of me and asked me if I would please help them get the word out. They're looking for chore workers to help senior citizens with snow removal this winter.
that's something that many of us take for granted, that we can just go out and pick up a shovel whenever it snows, but there are those individuals that are not physically able to do that. And Senior Resources hires people to go out and help them. So if that is something that you can do, please, please call Senior Resources 563-263-7292, and they will get you hooked up. I guarantee not only will you be helping them, but you'll be helping yourself with the reward that you feel from giving back to our community. So thanks to any of you that are able to do that. And if you aren't, spread the word. They've asked us to help spread the word. Next week on Our City is Amy Fortenbacher, and excuse me, she is the Muscatine director. So we're going to hear all about the Muscatine and all the exciting things that they're doing and anything new coming up. And we're looking forward to sitting down and visiting with Amy. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you here next week on Our City.